Welcome back to another episode of Infidelity Tales Lab. We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Architects of Ruin. Dominic Russo nursed his bourbon in the darkened corner of his home office, staring at the surveillance footage playing on his monitor. The security system he'd installed 6 months ago, ostensibly to protect his family after a break-in down the street, was serving its true purpose. On screen, his wife of 17 years, Vanessa, was tangled in the arms of Perry Walsh in their guest house. Perry, his business partner of 12 years and supposedly his closest friend. Dominic wasn't surprised. He was simply gathering evidence. A self-made real estate developer worth just north of $11 million. Dominic had built his empire through calculation and patience. The same qualities that made him successful in business made him lethal when crossed. He believed in justice, his version of it. Dad, Leo's voice broke through his thoughts. Dominic quickly switched screens before his 14-year-old son entered the room. Hey, buddy. Dominic forced a smile. Leo was skinny, awkward, with a mind sharper than most adults Dominic knew. The kid struggled socially, but excelled academically, a trait Vanessa seemed to resent rather than celebrate. Mom's not home yet. Can we order pizza? Leo asked, fidgeting with the strings of his hoodie. Sure thing. The usual. Dominic closed the surveillance program completely. Yeah. Hey, Dad. Leo hesitated. I heard Mom talking to Grandma Eleanor about me yesterday. She called me that weird kid and said she wished I was more normal. A muscle twitched in Dominic's jaw. Your mother has her own issues, Leo. That has nothing to do with you. Leo nodded, unconvinced. Perry's car is parked down the street again. I think he thinks I'm stupid and don't notice. Dominic's expression didn't change, but internally his resolve hardened. People underestimating you is an advantage, Leo. Remember that. After Leo left, Dominic reopened the surveillance program. His mind traveled back to meeting Vanessa during the recession of 2008. He'd been building his first major development. She was the interior designer hired by his original partner. When that partner tried to push Dominic out, Vanessa had warned him, giving him time to counter. He'd fallen for her loyalty as much as her beauty. 17 years later, she was betraying him with the new partner he'd taken on after building his company into a regional powerhouse. The symmetry wasn't lost on him. Dominic's phone buzzed. A text from Kendrick Lopez, his former military buddy turned private investigator. They're planning weekend in Connecticut. Reservation confirmed at Hillcrest Inn. 2 nights. Dominic typed back. Good. Keep tracking financials. Need transaction timeline. He took another sip of bourbon. In the kitchen, he could hear Leo rummaging for plates. The boy who Vanessa had gradually pulled away from over the years. The son she'd begun to treat as an inconvenience. Dominic pulled up another file, a detailed dossier on Perry Walsh. His partner had secrets that went beyond the affair. Financial troubles hidden beneath a veneer of success. Gambling debts to people who didn't send collection letters. A prescription drug habit that explained his erratic behavior in recent months. But most importantly, Perry had stupidly used company funds to impress Vanessa. Fancy dinners, jewelry, weekend getaways. Not enough to be immediately noticed, but enough that when aggregated and presented properly, would constitute fraud. Dominic didn't plan to expose this through corporate channels. That would damage his own company. No, he had something much more devastating in mind. The doorbell rang, pizza delivery. Dominic closed his files, locked his computer, and went to join his son for dinner. Tonight, he'd be the attentive father while his wife was working late. Tomorrow, he'd begin executing the first phase of a plan 6 months in the making. No one betrayed Dominic Russo and walked away unscathed. Not his wife, not his partner, not even his son, should it ever come to that, though he hoped it never would. Leo was the one pure thing in this mess, and Dominic intended to protect him while scorching the earth around everyone else. Chapter 2. Shadows and Whispers. The charity gala at the Westview Country Club sparkled with wealth and pretension. Dominic adjusted his bow tie in the reflection of a decorative mirror, watching as Vanessa charmed a group of potential donors across the room. She looked stunning in her emerald gown, a dress he'd paid for, but that she'd chosen to impress Perry. "You're awfully calm for a man being betrayed," came a smooth voice beside him. Olivia Winters, his attorney and longtime confidant, handed him a champagne flute. "Why waste emotion when calculation is more effective?" Dominic replied, taking the drink. Olivia, sharp-featured, formidable, and one of the few people Dominic genuinely respected, nodded toward Perry, who stood awkwardly conversing with the mayor. "Does he suspect you now?" "Not yet. Neither of them do." Dominic's voice remained perfectly level. "Did you file those amended operating agreements?" "This morning. As far as your business is concerned, Mr. Walsh's position is precarious at best. One wrong move, and he's not just out, he's liable." Olivia sipped her champagne. But personal betrayal is harder to quantify in legal terms. Dominic's eyes tracked Vanessa as she excused herself from her conversation and headed toward the restrooms. "That's why I'm handling that part myself." The plan was multi-layered, designed to dismantle both Vanessa and Perry piece by piece. For Perry, financial ruin and professional disgrace. For Vanessa, the loss of everything she valued: social standing, financial security, and most importantly, control of the narrative. Dominic, Eleanor Preston, Vanessa's mother, approached with the entitled air of someone who believed money equaled worth. "You should be mingling, not hiding in corners. The Campbell Group is looking to invest in new developments." "I've already spoken with them, Eleanor," Dominic replied coolly. "In fact, we're meeting next week." Eleanor's smile tightened. She had never approved of Dominic, the self-made man who didn't come from proper society. Even after he'd achieved success, she treated him as an outsider. The feeling was mutual. "Where's Leo tonight?" Eleanor asked, her tone suggesting she already knew the answer. "Home. These events aren't his scene." Dominic maintained his calm facade, though his dislike for his mother-in-law ran deep. She'd encouraged Vanessa's worst qualities over the years: the materialism, the social climbing, the dismissive attitude toward Leo's intellectual pursuits. "That boy needs to learn social skills. He'll never succeed otherwise, no matter how smart Vanessa claims he is." Eleanor's voice dripped with condescension. "Leo will find his own path to success," Dominic replied evenly. "Not everyone measures achievement by how well they work a room." Eleanor scoffed. "Well, at least the dog's properly trained. More than I can say for her. If you'll excuse me." Dominic cut her off, nodding to Olivia. "Business matters." As they walked away, Olivia whispered, "That woman is a piece of work, and she'll be a valuable piece of the puzzle," Dominic replied. "Her contempt for Leo is well documented and will be useful." Across the room, Dominic noticed Perry checking his phone, then making a subtle exit toward the terrace. 3 minutes later, Vanessa emerged from the restroom hallway and followed the same path. "Right on schedule," Dominic murmured, checking his watch. "I need to make my rounds. The foundation donors need attention." "And what do you need?" Olivia asked, studying his face. Dominic's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Justice, Olivia. Carefully crafted, meticulously delivered justice." Later that night, as Vanessa slept beside him, having returned from the terrace 20 minutes after Perry, lipstick freshly applied but slightly smudged at the corner, Dominic reached for his phone. A new message from Kendra confirmed that all listening devices were active in Perry's office, car, and apartment. "Files incoming hourly. Voice activation working perfectly," the text read. Dominic set his phone down and stared at the ceiling. In the quiet darkness, he allowed himself to feel the full weight of his anger. Not the hot, volatile kind that led to mistakes, but the cold, hardened variety that fueled precision. Tomorrow, he would begin feeding Perry false information about a new development opportunity, one that would tempt his greedy partner to make a critical mistake. Meanwhile, Vanessa would receive an anonymous gift, a beautiful diamond bracelet she would assume came from Perry, but that would lead back to a company account in ways that would emerge at precisely the right moment. Every betrayal had its price. Dominic was simply ensuring the invoice would come due when he chose, not when they expected. Chapter 3: The Point of No Return. Leo slammed his bedroom door, the sound reverberating through the house. The shouting match that had preceded it still hung in the air as Dominic stood in the kitchen, watching Vanessa pour herself a generous glass of wine. He needs to learn respect, she hissed, her hands trembling slightly. I can't believe you're defending his behavior. He defended his science project, Dominic corrected calmly. The one you called weird and refused to attend the presentation for. Vanessa rolled her eyes. It's not normal for a kid his age to be obsessed with acoustic engineering and sound wave patterns. He needs to play sports, make friends, be normal. He is normal. He's just not average. Dominic leaned against the counter. And your constant criticism isn't helping. Of course you'd say that. You encourage his odd behaviors. Vanessa took a long drink of wine. Did you see Mrs. Hendrick's face when Leo started explaining his theories at the neighborhood barbecue? We looked ridiculous. Dominic studied his wife. This woman he once believed was his partner in all things. When had she become so shallow? Or had she always been, and he'd simply been too infatuated to notice? I'm taking Bella for a walk, Vanessa announced, referring to their golden retriever. Maybe when I get back, you'll have talked some sense into your son. Our son, Dominic corrected. Vanessa's expression hardened. Sometimes I wonder. The implication hung between them, a match held over gasoline. Dominic felt his careful control slipping. What exactly are you suggesting, Vanessa? His voice was dangerously quiet. She backpedaled immediately. Nothing. I'm stressed. The Collins project is behind schedule, and Perry's breathing down my neck about the design changes. Perry seems to be breathing down your neck about a lot of things lately, Dominic remarked, watching her reaction closely. A flash of panic crossed her face before she masked it. He's demanding. You know that. It's why you made him partner. Among other qualities, Dominic maintained eye contact. Loyalty, for instance. Vanessa called for Bella, clipping on the dog's leash with shaking hands. I'll be back in an hour. After she left, Dominic climbed the stairs to Leo's room, knocking softly. Not if it's Mom, came the muffled response. It's me, Dominic answered. The door opened to reveal Leo's red-rimmed eyes. She hates me, Dad. She doesn't understand you, Dominic replied, though he knew Leo's assessment was closer to the truth. Your mind works differently than hers. She told Grandma Eleanor that she wished she had a different kid. Leo's voice cracked. I heard them on the phone last week. Grandma said, at least the dog's trained, and Mom laughed. Dominic felt something break inside him, the last thread of restraint regarding his wife. He sat on the edge of Leo's bed, choosing his words carefully. People sometimes say cruel things when they feel inadequate, he explained. Your intelligence intimidates your mother. It always has. Is that why she spends so much time with Mr. Walsh? Because he's not intimidating, Leo asked bluntly. Dominic stared at his son, realizing the boy was more observant than he'd given him credit for. What do you mean by that? Leo shrugged, looking suddenly uncomfortable. I saw texts on her phone when she asked me to find an address. They were weird, and she comes home smelling like his cologne sometimes. In that moment, Dominic made a decision. He would accelerate his plans. The evidence was mounting, and now Leo was being hurt directly. The psychological damage his wife and mother-in-law were inflicting could no longer be tolerated. Leo, Dominic said carefully, I want you to start keeping notes, dates, times, things you hear Mom say about you, especially to Grandma or on the phone. Can you do that? Leo looked confused but nodded. Like a research project? Exactly like that. Dominic squeezed his son's shoulder. And I need you to save any text messages Mom sends you, even if they seem unimportant. Are you and Mom getting divorced? Leo asked directly, his analytical mind cutting straight to the logical conclusion. Dominic didn't insult his son's intelligence with a denial. I'm considering all options. But whatever happens, you and I are a team. Understood, Leo nodded solemnly. Team Russo. Team Russo, Dominic agreed, feeling a surge of protectiveness. That night, after confirming Leo was asleep, Dominic made a call to Kendrick. I need everything accelerated. All surveillance, all financial tracking. And I need you to follow Eleanor Preston. I suspect she's more involved than we realized. Consider it done, Kendrick replied. What changed? They crossed the line with my son, Dominic said simply. Now, there's no going back. The next morning, Dominic met with Olivia to revise their strategy. Perry had taken the bait regarding the fake development opportunity, already approaching potential investors with information that would soon prove embarrassingly incorrect. We need to file for divorce within 2 weeks, Dominic told Olivia. But first, I want all financial safeguards in place. The trusts for Leo are already ironclad, Olivia assured him. And I've documented the company fund misappropriations. But are you sure about the timeline? Rushing could mean mistakes. I'm not rushing. I'm responding. Dominic handed her a folder. These are transcripts of conversations between Vanessa and her mother about Leo. I want them ready for the custody hearing. Olivia reviewed the papers, her expression darkening. This is disturbing, and it ends now, Dominic stated firmly. One more thing. I want to make sure Leo has the opportunity to speak in court. He deserves to be heard. I'll make it happen, Olivia promised. Dominic, are you sure you can maintain your composure through this? The evidence here would make most fathers lose control. Dominic's eyes were cold, determined. I'm beyond anger, Olivia. This is about calculated justice now. They chose their path. I'm simply ensuring they walk it to its logical conclusion. As he left Olivia's office, Dominic received a text from Vanessa, working late with Perry on Colin's project. Don't wait up. He texted back a single word. Understood. The trap was set. The players were in position. The point of no return had been crossed. Chapter 4. Silent Warfare. 3 days after his conversation with Leo, Dominic sat across from Perry Walsh in their company conference room, watching his business partner squirm under the scrutiny of their investors. The exclusive development opportunity Perry had prematurely shared with them was unraveling spectacularly. I was given to understand that the zoning was already approved, said Howard Blackwell, the lead investor, his voice sharp with displeasure. That's what I was told, Perry replied, shooting a desperate glance at Dominic. Dominic leaned forward, hands clasped on the table. I believe there's been a misunderstanding. The preliminary discussions with the city council were positive, but no formal approval has been granted. We would never presume otherwise. The subtle emphasis on we hung in the air. Then why did Mr. Walsh assure us it was a done deal? Another investor demanded. Perry is enthusiastic, Dominic offered diplomatically. Sometimes that enthusiasm can get ahead of the facts. But rest assured, Russo Developments stands by its reputation for transparency and honesty. The meeting ended with Perry thoroughly humiliated and the investors looking to Dominic for stability. It was the first domino in his plan, creating distance between himself and Perry in the eyes of their business associates. What the hell was that? Perry confronted him after everyone left. You threw me under the bus. I corrected misinformation, Dominic replied calmly. Information you shared without consulting me. I was trying to lock in financing early. The opportunity is solid. The opportunity requires a proper procedure. Dominic cut him off. You know that. Perry ran a hand through his hair, agitated. Look, I got a lot on my plate right now. Personal stuff. Anything I should know about? Dominic asked, his tone neutral despite knowing exactly what personal stuff entailed. No, just stress. Hey, are we still on for the charity board meeting tonight? Dominic nodded. 7 o'clock. I'll be there. He wouldn't be. At 6:30, Dominic would send his regrets, citing a sudden client emergency. Perry and Vanessa would both attend, thinking Dominic was occupied elsewhere. Meanwhile, Kendrick would be documenting their interaction, adding to the growing file of evidence. Later that afternoon, Dominic met Leo after school, taking him for ice cream, a rare father-son outing that both needed. Mom's been weird, Leo commented, picking at his chocolate chip cookie dough scoop. She keeps asking if you've said anything about work problems. Dominic considered this. What exactly does she ask? If you're upset about anything with the business. If you mention Mr. Walsh. Leo shrugged. I told her you don't really talk to me about work stuff. Good answer. Dominic nodded approvingly. Has she said anything else about you? Like what we discussed. Leo pulled out his phone, opening a notes app. I've been keeping track like you asked. Yesterday she told Grandma Eleanor that dealing with me is exhausting because I overthink everything. And this morning she texted me this. He showed Dominic a text message. Going to be late tonight. Walk, Bella. and make your own dinner. And please don't start any weird experiments in the kitchen like last time. Just normal food. Why can't you be normal for once? Dominic took a deep breath. Keep saving these, Leo. And keep that recording app one install for you running when mom and grandma are talking about you. It feels sneaky, Leo admitted. It's protection, Dominic corrected. Sometimes the truth needs documentation. That evening, while Vanessa and Perry attended the charity board meeting, Dominic accessed Vanessa's laptop. Her password, their anniversary date, had remained unchanged for years, a fact that seemed sadly symbolic now. He wasn't surprised to find emails between Vanessa and Perry dating back 8 months. What did surprise him was the discovery of a separate email thread between Vanessa and Eleanor, discussing plans for after the inevitable split. Once the divorce is finalized, we'll need to decide what to do about Leo, Eleanor had written. Dominic will fight for custody, but frankly, you'd be better off without that burden. The dog is one thing, trainable, affectionate, normal. But that boy will never fit in with the life you deserve. Vanessa's reply made Dominic's blood run cold. I'm taking the dog. He can have the disgusting kid. Let him deal with the science experiments and social awkwardness. I'll put in my time. Dominic forwarded the emails to his secure account, then to Olivia. His phone buzzed almost immediately after. This is exactly what we need, Olivia texted. Filing first thing tomorrow. Judge Whitman has our case. Judge Raymond Whitman was known for his stringent views on parental responsibility and his particular disdain for parents who rejected their children for any reason, especially disability or neurodivergence. While Leo had never been formally diagnosed with anything, his obvious intellectual gifts and social challenges placed him in a category Judge Whitman would be inclined to protect. Dominic checked his watch. Vanessa wouldn't be home for at least another 2 hours, according to Kendrick's update. He went to Leo's room, finding his son working on his laptop. Hey, buddy, what are you working on? Leo looked up, his expression brightening. A program that analyzes sound patterns in conversations. It can identify stress markers in voices even when people try to hide them. Dominic smiled. His son's brilliance never ceased to amaze him. That's incredible. Listen, I need to tell you something important. Tomorrow, some things are going to change. I'm filing for divorce from your mom. Leo nodded slowly. I figured that was coming. Is it because of her and Mr. Walsh? Partly, Dominic admitted, but mostly because of how she treats you. That's not acceptable to me. What's going to happen? Leo asked, his analytical mind already looking for the variables to process. There will be legal proceedings. You might need to talk to a judge at some point. Dominic sat on the edge of the bed. I'm going to request full custody of you. Leo's eyes widened. Mom won't like that. No, she won't, Dominic agreed. But sometimes people reveal their true priorities under pressure. We need to be prepared for whatever happens. That night, Dominic slept in the guest room, claiming a headache when Vanessa returned home. The next morning, he left before she woke, meeting Olivia at the courthouse to file the divorce papers. Preliminary hearing is set for next week. Olivia informed him as they walked out. Vanessa will be served today. And Perry? Dominic asked. The financial audit request goes to the company board this afternoon. By the time he realizes what's happening, it'll be too late to hide the transactions. Dominic nodded, feeling not satisfaction, but a cold resolve. When this is done, I want new trusts established for Leo. Something that can never be touched, regardless of what happens to me or the company. Already drafted, Olivia assured him. Dominic, are you prepared for how ugly this might get? Vanessa won't go quietly. I'm counting on it, Dominic replied. The louder she fights, the more she'll expose her true nature. By noon, Vanessa had been served with divorce papers. By 12:30, she was blowing up Dominic's phone. By 1 p.m., she had marched into his office, face contorted with rage. Full custody? Are you out of your mind? She screamed, waving the papers. Dominic remained seated, calm. I believe it's best for Leo. This is about Perry, isn't it? You found out, and now you're punishing me by trying to take my son. Our son, Dominic corrected for the second time that week. And no, this isn't about Perry. It's about the emails where you called Leo disgusting and planned to abandon him after our divorce. Vanessa's face drained of color. You hacked my emails? That's illegal. Is that really the point you want to focus on? Dominic asked quietly. Not the fact that you referred to our child as a burden you're eager to be rid of. I was venting. Everyone says things they don't mean when they're frustrated. To that extent, planning to abandon your child? Calling him disgusting. Dominic stood now, his composure still intact, but his eyes cold. The emails to your mother go back months, Vanessa. This isn't a one-time frustration. It's a pattern of emotional abuse. Vanessa's strategy shifted instantly. You're twisting things. I love Leo. He's just difficult. You've always favored him, made excuses for his oddities. I'm just being realistic about his challenges. Save it for court, Dominic replied, unmoved. Judge Whitman has our case. I'm sure he'll be interested in your perspective on parental obligations. The mention of Judge Whitman, whose reputation was well known, made Vanessa pause. This isn't fair. You're trying to destroy me. No, Vanessa, you did that yourself. Dominic gestured to the door. Now, I have work to do. My attorney will handle all further communications. After she left, Dominic received a text from Kendrick. V went straight to P's office. Both now headed to her mother's house. Audio surveillance active. The pieces were moving exactly as he'd anticipated. Now to prepare Leo for what would come next. Chapter 5. The Gathering Storm. Eleanor Preston's lakeside mansion buzzed with tense energy as Vanessa paced the sunroom. Perry watched her nervously from the sofa, and Eleanor herself mixed martinis with the precision of someone who'd made them her coping mechanism for decades. He knows everything, Vanessa hissed, accepting the drink from her mother. The emails, the affair, all of it. Calm down, Eleanor commanded. Dominic is smart, but he's not infallible. We just need the right strategy. Unknown to them, every word was being captured by the small listening device Kendrick had placed in Eleanor's prized orchid arrangement during a catering event the previous month. Back at his office, Dominic listened to the live feed, Olivia beside him taking notes. We need to focus on his business practices, Eleanor was saying. There must be something we can use. Perry, you're his partner. What do you have on him? Perry sounded uncomfortable. Dominic is meticulous. I've never seen him cut corners or break rules. Everyone has dirt, Eleanor insisted. Find it. Maybe we should focus on Leo instead, Vanessa suggested. If we can show he's better off with me. Eleanor's laugh was sharp. Please, that peculiar boy is closer to his father than he's ever been to you. And you've made your feelings about him quite clear. Those emails were private venting. Vanessa protested. And now they're evidence. Eleanor replied bluntly. No, we need a different approach. Perry, the company audit. Can you delay it? I've tried. Perry sounded defeated. The board is insistent. They're reviewing all executive expenses for the past 18 months, which means they'll find the jewelry, the trips, all of it, Vanessa concluded, panic edging into her voice. Not if you return them, Eleanor suggested. The bracelet, the earrings, give them back to Perry. He can claim they were purchased for a different purpose. That won't work, Perry objected. The timing of the purchases corresponds with our hotel stays. It creates a pattern. Dominic and Olivia exchanged looks. This was better than they'd hoped. Then we need to destroy Dominic's credibility, Eleanor declared. Make him seem unstable, dangerous even. Vanessa, you'll need to document any aggressive behavior, any threats. He doesn't threaten. Vanessa sounded frustrated. He doesn't even raise his voice. Then provoke him. Eleanor snapped. For God's sake, the man is divorcing you and trying to take your son. There must be some button you can push. The conversation continued in this vein, with Eleanor suggesting increasingly desperate tactics, while Perry worried about the audit and Vanessa vacillated between denial and panic. Olivia stopped the recording. This is gold, Dominic. They're literally conspiring to fabricate evidence against you and demonstrating a complete disregard for Leo's well-being in the process, Dominic added. Make sure Judge Whitman gets a transcript before the preliminary hearing. That evening, Dominic sat with Leo in his bedroom, preparing him for what was coming. Mom might try to suddenly act like she's more interested in you, Dominic explained gently. She might offer to take you places, buy you things, or show up at your science club meetings. Leo looked skeptical. Why would she do that now? To create the impression that she's an engaged mother. Dominic replied honestly. The court considers many factors in deciding custody, including which parent has been more involved in your activities. Leo considered this. So, she'd be pretending to care about my interests just to look good? Potentially, Dominic acknowledged, careful not to explicitly turn his son against his mother despite her actions. The important thing is that you know your worth isn't determined by her approval, and that whatever happens in court, you and I are going to be okay. Dad, Leo hesitated. Last night, Mom texted me something weird. He showed Dominic his phone. The message read, "I'm taking the dog. You get the disgusting kid." Her mom laughed. At least the dog's trained. I wish you could hear how they talk about you. Dominic frowned. This is from your mother's number? Leo nodded. But it doesn't sound like her. It's like she's quoting someone else, but sent it to me by mistake. May I? Dominic asked, gesturing to the phone. When Leo nodded, he forwarded the message to his own device and to Olivia. This was probably meant for Perry or your grandmother. She was quoting herself and Eleanor. Leo's expression fell. So she really does think I'm disgusting. Dominic put his arm around his son's shoulders. What she thinks reflects her limitations, not yours. Keep saving these messages, Leo. They matter. Over the next few days, the pressure mounted on all fronts. The company audit uncovered Perry's misappropriation of funds, leading to an emergency board meeting where he was suspended pending further investigation. Vanessa, as Eleanor had suggested, began making obvious attempts to appear interested in Leo's activities, showing up at his science club competition for the first time in years and awkwardly trying to understand his acoustic engineering project. Leo, wise beyond his years, saw through the performance but remained polite, a quality Dominic had always admired in his son. She asked if she could take a photo with me and my project, Leo reported afterward. Then she posted it on Instagram with some hashtag about proud mom moments. She's never even looked at my project before. Dominic simply nodded. How did the competition go otherwise? I won first place, Leo said with a small smile. The judges said my sound wave analysis program has practical applications for security systems. That's my boy, Dominic said proudly. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. The weekend before, Vanessa made a desperate attempt to sway Dominic. We can work this out privately, she suggested, finding him in his home office. There's no need to drag our dirty laundry through the courts. Dominic looked up from his computer. What are you proposing? Joint custody of Leo. I keep the house. You keep the company. We divide other assets equally. She sat on the edge of his desk, attempting a conciliatory tone. Perry's already been dealt with. Why continue this public spectacle? And Bella? Dominic asked, referring to the dog. I keep Bella, of course, Vanessa replied without hesitation. Leo has never been as attached to her as I am. Dominic leaned back in his chair. So you get the house, the dog, and shared custody of the child you called disgusting and plan to abandon. What exactly am I getting in this generous offer? Vanessa's expression hardened. You're getting a clean break without your reputation being questioned. Mother has friends in the press, Dominic. This could get very public, very ugly. Are you threatening me, Vanessa? His voice remained calm, but his eyes had turned to ice. I'm being practical, she countered. Eleanor thinks we should fight dirty. I'm offering an alternative. Dominic studied his wife. This woman who had once been his partner, his supporter. Now she sat before him, threatening media exposure if he didn't agree to her terms, completely unconcerned about what was best for their son. The hearing is Monday, 9 a.m., he said finally. I'll see you there. Vanessa stood, her composure slipping. You're making a mistake. I can hurt you, Dominic. Don't think I won't. You've been hurting our son for years, Dominic replied evenly. That ends now, regardless of what you try to do to me. After she left, Dominic called Kendrick. I need security for Leo this weekend. Vanessa's getting desperate. Already arranged, Kendrick assured him. And I've got something you should hear. Eleanor Preston made some calls to a tabloid reporter this afternoon, offering dirt on you. Let her, Dominic replied. The restraining order against her will be more effective if she's already demonstrated malicious intent. On Sunday night, Leo knocked on Dominic's office door, looking troubled. Dad, Mom's been texting me weird stuff again. He handed over his phone. The latest message read, Court tomorrow. Your father is trying to make me look bad. Remember all the good times we've had. Tell the judge you want to live with me if they ask. Dominic handed the phone back. How do you feel about that? Leo considered the question carefully. I think I want to tell the truth. About everything. Is that okay? The truth is always okay, Leo, Dominic assured him. Even when it's difficult. That night, as the house settled into an uneasy quiet, Vanessa in the guest room, Leo finally asleep, and Dominic reviewing documents for the hearing. A final text came through on Leo's phone. It was from Vanessa. I know your father has poisoned you against me. But remember, if you say anything that makes me look bad tomorrow, there will be consequences. I'm still your mother. Leo, unable to sleep, saw the message immediately. Without hesitation, he forwarded it to his father. Dominic stared at the naked threat, feeling the last vestiges of restraint slipping away. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. Chapter 6. The Crucible of Truth. The family court's austere wood-paneled chamber seemed to amplify every sound. The shuffle of papers, the clearing of throats, the soft whisk of the ceiling fans. Judge Raymond Whitman, a man whose severe expression matched his reputation for no-nonsense rulings, surveyed the parties before him. On one side sat Dominic with Olivia, both composed and prepared. On the other, Vanessa fidgeted beside her attorney, Mallory Reed, a divorce lawyer known for aggressive tactics and theatrical courtroom performances. Eleanor sat directly behind them, her expression suggesting she'd smelled something unpleasant. Leo waited outside with a court-appointed guardian ad litem, a psychologist who would assess his best interests independent of either parent's claims. This is a preliminary hearing to establish temporary custody arrangements and address immediate concerns, Judge Whitman began. I have reviewed the filings from both parties, including some troubling communications. His gaze fixed on Vanessa momentarily. Ms. Reed, your client has requested primary physical custody of the minor child. On what basis? Mallory stood, smoothing her suit jacket. Your Honor, despite Mr. Russo's claims, my client has been a devoted mother who has balanced career demands with parenting responsibilities for 14 years. The cherry-picked communications presented by opposing counsel show a mother occasionally frustrated, as all parents are, but don't reflect the full picture of her relationship with her son. Judge Whitman's expression remained impassive, and the text messages threatening the child if he speaks against her in court? Do those reflect frustration as well? Mallory faltered slightly. My client denies sending such messages, Your Honor. We believe Mr. Russo, who has admitted to surveillance of my client, may have fabricated these communications. Olivia rose. Your Honor, we have digital forensic evidence confirming these messages came from Ms. Russo's device at times and locations where she was present. Furthermore, we have recorded conversations between Ms. Russo, her mother, and Mr. Perry Walsh explicitly discussing their plan to destroy Mr. Russo's credibility and acknowledging Ms. Russo's desire to relinquish custody while maintaining appearances. Judge Whitman held up a hand. I've reviewed those transcripts, Ms. Adler. They are concerning, to say the least. Eleanor leaned forward, whispering urgently to Mallory, who nodded before addressing the court again. Your Honor, we request the opportunity to examine this alleged evidence with our own digital forensic expert. Furthermore, any recordings made without my client's knowledge may be inadmissible under wiretapping statutes. The recordings were made in Ms. Preston's home, with surveillance devices legally placed during a public event, Olivia countered, and the text messages were freely shared by the minor child, who was the recipient. The legal arguments continued, with Mallory becoming increasingly desperate as Judge Whitman appeared unmoved by her objections. After 30 minutes of technical disputes, the judge interrupted. I believe it would be beneficial to hear from the child at this point. Ms. Adler, you've requested that Leo Russo be permitted to address the court? Yes, Your Honor. He has expressed a strong desire to speak regarding his living situation. Judge Whitman nodded to the bailiff, who opened the door. Leo entered, looking small but determined in his dress shirt and tie. The guardian ad litem, Dr. Sarah Chun, accompanied him, giving him an encouraging nod. Leo, I understand you wish to speak today, Judge Whitman said, his tone gentler than it had been with the attorneys. You're not required to, but if you want to share your thoughts with the court, you may do so. Leo glanced at his father, who gave him a subtle nod, then at his mother, who attempted a warm smile that didn't reach her eyes. Thank you, Your Honor, Leo said, his voice surprisingly steady. I would like to speak. Proceed when you're ready, Judge Whitman encouraged. Leo took a deep breath. Your Honor, may I read something first? A text message my mom sent me last night. Vanessa stiffened visibly. Judge Whitman nodded his permission. Leo pulled out his phone. This is from my mom at 11:42 p.m. last night. I know your father has poisoned you against me. But remember, if you say anything that makes me look bad tomorrow, there will be consequences. I'm still your mother. Murmurs filled the courtroom. Vanessa's face flushed with anger, while Eleanor looked like she might combust. And this is from 3 days ago. Leo continued, scrolling through his phone. I'm taking the dog. You get the disgusting kid. Her mom laughed. At least the dog's trained. I wish you could hear how they talk about you. Leo looked up, meeting the judge's eyes directly. She sent that by mistake. It was supposed to go to Mr. Walsh or Grandma Eleanor, quoting their earlier conversation about me. Judge Whitman leaned forward. Leo, how do these messages make you feel? Sad, Leo answered honestly, but not surprised. Mom has always been disappointed in me because I'm not like other kids, because I like science and acoustic engineering instead of sports, because I'm quiet at parties instead of sociable like she wants. Objection. Mallory stood. This is clearly rehearsed testimony. Ms. Reed, this is not a trial, and the child is not a witness being cross-examined. Judge Whitman reprimanded sharply. He is expressing his feelings and experiences, which are directly relevant to these proceedings. Please continue, Leo. Leo nodded. Recently, Mom suddenly started coming to my science competitions and posting pictures online about being proud of me. But it wasn't real. She never asked me about my project or what it does. She just took photos and left. And your father? Judge Whitman prompted. Dad has always supported me, Leo replied simply. He doesn't care if I'm different. He helps with my projects, listens to my ideas, and never makes me feel bad about who I am. Judge Whitman nodded thoughtfully. Is there anything else you'd like to tell me about your situation at home? Leo hesitated, then spoke with careful deliberation. Sir, can I read what Mom texted me last night? The one I just mentioned about consequences. The judge nodded, his expression grave. Leo cleared his throat. The text was a threat. If I told the truth today, there would be consequences. But my dad taught me that the truth matters, even when it's hard. He looked directly at Vanessa now. Mom doesn't want me. She wants Bella, our dog, because Bella is normal and trainable. Those are Grandma Eleanor's words, but Mom agrees with them. I've heard them talking when they didn't know I was listening. The courtroom fell completely silent as Leo continued. I don't want to live where I'm not wanted, he concluded simply. I want to stay with my dad. Judge Whitman studied Leo for a moment. Thank you for your courage today, Leo. You may step outside with Dr. Chun now, while we continue. After Leo left, the judge turned his attention back to the attorneys, but his expression had hardened considerably. Ms. Reed, does your client wish to respond to these statements? Vanessa whispered frantically to Mallory, who then addressed the court. Your Honor, my client acknowledges sending messages in moments of stress, but contends they are being taken out of context. As for the allegations about her preferences regarding custody, she categorically denies any intention to abandon her parental responsibilities. Then perhaps she can explain this email. Olivia interjected, presenting a document to the court. Sent for Vanessa Russo to Eleanor Preston just 6 weeks ago, stating, and I quote, I'm taking the dog. He can have the disgusting kid. Let him deal with the science experiments and social awkwardness. I put in my time. Vanessa's face drained of color. Eleanor, from her seat behind the counsel table, suddenly stood. This is absurd. Private communications between mother and daughter are being twisted to paint Vanessa as an unfit mother. Ms. Preston, Judge Whitman warned, you are not a party to these proceedings. Please be seated or you will be removed. Eleanor ignored him, continuing her tirade. That boy has always been strange. Is it any wonder his mother occasionally expresses frustration? At least the dog behaves normally. The courtroom erupted in shocked whispers. Judge Whitman banged his gavel. Ms. Preston, you are in contempt of court. Bailiff, please escort her out. As the bailiff approached, Eleanor turned to Vanessa. Tell them how difficult that boy has always been. How you suffered trying to raise such an odd child. The bailiff took Eleanor's arm, leading her toward the door. Her parting shot echoed through the chamber. You should have left years ago, Vanessa, taken the dog and left him with that strange child. After order was restored, Judge Whitman looked directly at Vanessa. Ms. Russo, given what has transpired here today, do you wish to modify your custody request? Vanessa, still visibly shaken by her mother's outburst, conferred briefly with Mallory. The attorney then addressed the court. Your Honor, in light of today's revelations, my client is willing to consider a temporary custody arrangement that prioritizes stability for the minor child while these matters are further investigated. I'm not interested in further investigations, Judge Whitman stated flatly. The evidence before me is clear and compelling. I am granting temporary full custody to Dominic Russo, with supervised visitation for Vanessa Russo at Mr. Russo's discretion. He turned to Dominic. Mr. Russo, I must commend your restraint throughout these proceedings, particularly given the nature of the communications regarding your son. The court appreciates your focus on Leo's well-being rather than retribution. Dominic nodded respectfully. Leo's welfare is my only concern, Your Honor. Judge Whitman made several additional rulings regarding financial matters and set dates for subsequent hearings before concluding the session. As the courtroom began to clear, Vanessa approached Dominic, her expression a mixture of defeat and lingering defiance. You orchestrated all of this, she accused in a low voice. Recorded conversations, saved emails, you've been planning this for months. I simply preserved the truth, Dominic replied quietly. Your words, your actions, those were your choices, not mine. This isn't over, Vanessa hissed. Perry may be finished, but I still have options. Dominic met her gaze steadily. For Leo's sake, I hope one of those options is becoming a better mother. But regardless of what you choose, he will never again feel unwanted or inadequate in his own home. He left her standing there, joining Leo and Olivia in the hallway. The boy looked drained but relieved. You did well in there, Dominic told him, placing a hand on his shoulder. I'm proud of you. Is it over? Leo asked hopefully. The beginning is over, Dominic answered truthfully. There's more to come, but the most important part is settled. You're staying with me. Leo nodded, processing this information with his typical thoughtfulness. What about Bella? Dominic smiled slightly. We'll see. One battle at a time. As they walked out of the courthouse, Dominic's phone buzzed with a text from Kendrick. Phase 1 complete. Ready for Phase 2 when you are. Dominic looked at his son, then back at his phone. Proceed, he typed. The battle for custody might be won, but the war was far from over. Eleanor's financial resources and vindictive nature made her a continuing threat. And Vanessa, humiliated but not defeated, will be looking for any opportunity to strike back. But for now, Leo was safe. And that was what mattered most. Chapter 7, The Counterstrike. 3 weeks after the preliminary hearing, Dominic sat in his home office reviewing the financial impact statements Olivia had prepared. The temporary custody arrangement had solidified into a more permanent solution after Vanessa's subsequent behavior, erratic, retaliatory, and ultimately self-destructive, had further damaged her case. She had tried, as threatened, to attack Dominic through the press. Eleanor's tabloid connections had run stories suggesting Dominic was a controlling husband who had manipulated his sensitive son against his mother. The stories had fallen flat when Leo's school records, teacher testimonials, and Vanessa's own documented behavior painted a very different picture. Now, Vanessa was facing not just divorce, but potential criminal charges for attempting to bribe Leo's guardian ad litem. A desperate move orchestrated by Eleanor that had backfired spectacularly when Dr. Chen reported the attempt immediately. A knock at the door pulled Dominic from his thoughts. Leo entered, Bella trotting happily beside him. The golden retriever had become a point of contention in the divorce proceedings, with Vanessa initially insisting she should keep the dog despite losing custody of her son. However, after Leo's testimony about how she had prioritized the dog over him, Judge Whitman had awarded temporary possession of Bella to Dominic and Leo as well. "Dad, can I talk to you about something?" Leo asked, settling into the chair across from Dominic's desk. Bella flopped contentedly at his feet. Of course, Dominic set aside his papers. "What's on your mind?" "Mom called again," Leo said, his expression troubled. She was crying, saying she misses me and Bella, that she's sorry for everything, and that Grandma Eleanor pushed her to say those things about me. Dominic considered his response carefully. Despite everything, Vanessa was still Leo's mother. "Do you believe her?" Leo shrugged. "I don't know. She never apologized before, even when she did stuff that hurt my feelings. It feels different now, like she's only sorry because she lost." "That's very perceptive," Dominic acknowledged. "People sometimes confuse regret over consequences with genuine remorse for their actions." "She wants to see me, without the supervisor." Leo picked at a loose thread on his jeans. "She says the supervision makes her feel like a criminal." "The supervision is there to protect you," Dominic explained. "Not just physically, but emotionally. The things your mother and grandmother said about you were a form of abuse, Leo. The court recognizes that." Leo nodded slowly. "I know, but part of me still wishes things could be normal. That mom could just like me for who I am." Dominic felt a pang of sympathy for his son. Despite the cruelty Vanessa had shown, Leo still craved his mother's genuine acceptance, a natural desire that might never be fulfilled. "We can't control how other people feel or behave," Dominic said gently. "We can only control our own responses. Your mother has choices to make about what kind of parent she wants to be. Those choices are hers, not yours." "I think I want to keep the supervised visits for now," Leo decided. "It feels safer." "I think that's wise," Dominic agreed, proud of his son's self-awareness. "Now, how about that science project? Did you finish the acoustic resonance patterns?" Leo's face lit up as he launched into an enthusiastic explanation of his latest work. Dominic listened attentively, marveling at his son's brilliance and emotional resilience. Despite everything, Leo was thriving in their new arrangement, his confidence growing without the constant undercurrent of his mother's disappointment. Later that evening, Dominic received a call from Kendrick. "Eleanor's making moves," the investigator reported. "She's been meeting with Calvin Weber." Calvin Weber was a business rival of Dominic's, a developer with a reputation for underhanded tactics and questionable financing. They had competed for projects over the years, with Dominic usually emerging victorious due to his superior planning and ethical business practices. "What kind of moves?" Dominic asked, stepping onto his back patio to ensure Leo couldn't overhear. "She's offering inside information on your upcoming bids, specifically the Harbor View project. Says she has access to your financial strategy through Vanessa." Dominic considered this. Vanessa had never been involved in the company's financial planning, but she had occasionally been present when he discussed projects at home. She might have gleaned enough to sound convincing to someone like Weber. "Let them proceed," Dominic decided. In fact, make sure Weber gets some additional insider information through channels he'll trust. "The misinformation protocol we discussed last month," Kendrick confirmed. "Exactly. Time to let Eleanor hang herself." The Harbor View project was a major downtown revitalization effort worth nearly $50 million. Dominic had been preparing his company's bid for months, creating detailed proposals that would transform the waterfront area into a mixed-use development, focusing on sustainability and community integration. What Eleanor and Weber didn't know was that Dominic had anticipated this move. Weeks earlier, he had created a shadow proposal, a convincing but fundamentally flawed plan with financial projections that appeared solid but contained critical miscalculations. This decoy proposal had been accidentally left where Vanessa could access it during one of her visits to collect personal items from the house. Now, Dominic just needed to confirm she had taken a bait. "There's more," Kendrick continued. "Eleanor's financial situation isn't as robust as she pretends. Her late husband's investments have been underperforming for years. She's leveraged the lake house to fund Vanessa's legal fees and their PR campaign against you. This was valuable information. Eleanor's apparent wealth had always been her shield against consequences, allowing her to operate with impunity in social circles where appearances mattered more than character. Keep tracking her finances, Dominic instructed, and make sure our contacts at First National are aware of her liquidity issues before she approaches them for additional credit. After ending the call, Dominic sent a message to Olivia. Eleanor's moving on the business front. Time to activate the Preston Protocol. The Preston Protocol was the final phase of Dominic's plan, a comprehensive response to Eleanor's interference that would neutralize her ability to harm Leo or damage Dominic's business interests. Unlike his approach with Vanessa, which had been primarily defensive and focused on protecting Leo, his strategy for Eleanor was proactive and designed to eliminate her influence permanently. Eleanor had spent years manipulating her daughter, encouraging her worst qualities, and ultimately contributing to the toxic environment that had harmed Leo. Dominic had long suspected she viewed Leo as a disappointment primarily because the boy's intellect and quiet nature reminded her of her late husband's academic brother, a man she had openly disdained for being too intellectual and socially awkward. Now, Eleanor had moved beyond family dynamics into attempting to sabotage Dominic's business, an arena where he was particularly unforgiving. The next morning, Dominic met with his executive team to review the actual harbor view proposal. The team was unaware of the shadow proposal or the potential information leak. "We're in excellent position for this bid," reported Alicia Terrell, his chief financial officer. "Our financing is solid, our sustainability metrics are industry-leading, and our community integration plan addresses all the city council's priority concerns." "What about Weber Development?" Dominic asked casually. "I heard they're putting together an aggressive package." Alicia looked surprised. "Weber? Our intel suggests they're focusing on the Westridge project instead. They don't have the sustainability expertise Harborview requires." "Things change," Dominic remarked. "Let's proceed as planned, but I want additional security on all our proposal documents. Nothing leaves this office without encryption and tracking." After the meeting, Dominic received a text from an unknown number. Weber bit hard. "Meeting with financial backers tomorrow using your numbers. Eleanor attending as special consultant." The trap was set. Now, he just needed to prepare for the fallout. That evening, as Dominic helped Leo with a particularly complex math problem, his phone rang. It was Vanessa. "I want to talk about settlement terms," she said without preamble. "Mother thinks we should keep fighting, but I'm tired, Dominic." "What did you have in mind?" he asked, stepping away from the kitchen table where Leo was working. "I'll drop the custody battle. Full custody to you, with reasonable visitation for me." Her voice sounded deflated. "In exchange, I want a fair financial settlement and no criminal charges for the misunderstanding with Dr. Chun." "Attempted bribery isn't a misunderstanding, Vanessa," Dominic reminded her. "But I'm willing to discuss terms if you're serious about putting Leo's interests first." "I am," she insisted. "I've been seeing a therapist. She's helping me understand some patterns in my behavior. My relationship with Mother, how it affected my relationship with Leo." Dominic remained skeptical but recognized potential value in Vanessa developing genuine insight. "Send your proposed terms to Olivia. We'll review them. But understand this. If this is another strategy or delay tactic, there won't be another chance." "It's not," Vanessa said quietly. "And Dominic, I need to tell you something about Mother. She took some documents from your home office during my last visit. Financial information about the Harborview project. She's working with Calvin Weber. So she was confessing." "Interesting. Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I'm starting to see things clearly," Vanessa replied. "Mother's always used people, me included. But using Leo against you, that crossed a line I should never have allowed her to cross." After ending the call, Dominic stood silently in the hallway, processing this development. Was Vanessa's apparent change of heart genuine, or another manipulation? Either way, her confession about Eleanor and Weber confirmed they had taken a bait. Tomorrow would bring the next phase of Eleanor's downfall. For tonight, Dominic returned to the kitchen table, where Leo was working on his math problems with Bella stretched out contentedly under his chair. Some battles were worth fighting to the bitter end. Others were simply stepping stones toward what truly mattered. Chapter 8. The Collapse. The Harborview Project bid presentation was scheduled for Thursday morning at City Hall. By Wednesday afternoon, Calvin Weber was feeling supremely confident. Thanks to Eleanor Preston's inside information, Weber Development had crafted a proposal that seemingly undercut Russo Developments on every key metric while still maintaining profitability. What Weber didn't know was that the financial projections he had based his bid on contained fatal flaws. The labor costs were underestimated by nearly 30%. The environmental remediation budget was insufficient by half, and the timeline assumptions failed to account for critical infrastructure dependencies. To anyone without detailed knowledge of the project, the errors were invisible. To the experienced City Planning Commission, they would be glaring red flags. Dominic sat in his car outside City Hall, watching as Weber arrived with Eleanor Preston beside him, both looking triumphant. He took a photo with his phone and sent it to Kendrick with the caption, "Phase 2 initiated." Inside, the commissioners were gathering for the pre-bid review session when Dominic's phone buzzed. It was Olivia. Judge signed off on the settlement agreement. Vanessa just countersigned. Full custody confirmed. Financial terms as discussed. She waived alimony in exchange for lump sum payment. One battle conclusively won. Dominic allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before focusing on the task at hand. He entered City Hall just as Eleanor was being escorted into the waiting area for non-presenters. Their eyes met briefly, hers triumphant, his impassive. The presentations proceeded methodically. 3 smaller firms presented first, offering solid but unimaginative proposals. Then came Weber, brimming with confidence as he outlined a plan that promised everything the city wanted at costs that seemed remarkably favorable. The commissioners asked standard questions, which Weber answered smoothly, clearly believing he had outmaneuvered everyone. When one commissioner inquired about the environmental remediation costs, Weber cited figures directly from the shadow proposal Dominic had planted. "Mr. Weber," said Commissioner Garcia, "these estimates seem unusually low given the site's industrial history. Could you walk us through your assessment methodology?" Weber hesitated momentarily before recovering. "Our environmental consultants have developed proprietary techniques that allow for more cost-effective remediation while exceeding regulatory requirements." It was an empty answer, and Garcia's expression showed she recognized it as such, but she simply nodded and made a note. When it was Dominic's turn to present, he didn't directly challenge Weber's figures. Instead, he systematically laid out Russo Development's comprehensive approach, backed by detailed analyses, expert assessments, and a financing structure that was conservative but realistic. "Our proposal may not appear to be the least expensive option initially," Dominic acknowledged, "but our integrated approach ensures long-term sustainability, both environmental and financial. We've included contingency budgets for unexpected challenges, comprehensive community benefit agreements, and local hiring guarantees." The commissioners asked pointed questions, which Dominic answered with precise technical details. By the end of his presentation, the contrast between the two approaches was clear to anyone with expertise in development projects. As Dominic was gathering his materials, Commissioner Garcia approached him privately. "Interesting coincidence," she remarked. "Weber's proposal contained financial projections remarkably similar to early drafts we received from your team last month, drafts that your office subsequently corrected, citing computational errors." Dominic maintained a neutral expression. "That is interesting. I wasn't aware our preliminary projections had been shared with the commission." "They weren't supposed to be," Garcia replied. "They came in an unmarked envelope addressed to me personally. I assumed it was an internal leak and notified our security team." "I appreciate you telling me this," Dominic said carefully. "Corporate espionage is unfortunately common in our industry." Garcia studied him for a moment. "The commission takes such matters seriously, Mr. Russo. If someone obtained proprietary information improperly and then based a multi-million-dollar bid on it without due diligence, well, that would be concerning on multiple levels." "Very concerning indeed," Dominic agreed. As he left City Hall, Dominic noticed Eleanor in deep conversation with Weber, both looking increasingly agitated. He didn't need to hear their words to know they were realizing something had gone very wrong. His phone buzzed with a text from Kendrick. Financial Times reporter just received anonymous tip about Weber's bid irregularities. Story developing. By evening, the story had broken. The Financial Times article didn't directly accuse Weber of corporate espionage, but raised serious questions about the remarkable similarities between early drafts of Russo Development's proposal and Weber Development's final bid. Similarities that extended to identical errors that had long since been corrected in Russo's actual submission. Calvin Weber issued an immediate denial, claiming any similarities were coincidental. Eleanor Preston was not mentioned in the article, but industry insiders would recognize her presence at the bid presentation as unusual and significant. The next morning, as Dominic was preparing for a conference call, his secure line rang. It was an unlisted number that very few people had access to. "Russo," he answered. "You set me up." Calvin Weber's voice was tight with fury. Those projections were deliberately flawed. "I have no idea what you're talking about, Weber," Dominic replied calmly. "But if someone provided you with stolen information that turned out to be incorrect, perhaps you should be questioning your source rather than the victim of the theft. Eleanor Preston swore the information came directly from your files Vanessa accessed during a court-approved visit to collect personal items. And you believe that a woman in the middle of a bitter divorce battle with me would have access to accurate, current information about a $50 million project." Dominic let his incredulity show. "That shows remarkably poor judgment, Calvin. The kind of judgment that makes investors nervous." Weber was silent for a moment. "The Commission is requesting a full audit of our bid documentation and sources." "As they should," Dominic remarked. "Transparency is essential in public projects." "This isn't over, Russo." "Actually, I think it is." Dominic's voice turned cold. "You allowed yourself to be manipulated by someone with a personal vendetta against me. And in doing so, you violated bidding ethics at minimum, possibly laws regarding corporate espionage. Your reputation will take years to recover, if it ever does." After ending the call, Dominic received a text from an unknown number. "Eleanor Preston just emptied her primary accounts. Appears to be preparing for rapid departure." Dominic forwarded the message to Kendrick with instructions. "Alert Preston Protocol Phase 3 contacts." Phase 3 involved ensuring that Eleanor couldn't simply flee and regroup. Dominic had anticipated this move and had prepared accordingly. With contacts at border control, financial institutions, and relevant authorities all primed to pay special attention to Eleanor Preston should she suddenly attempt to leave the country or move substantial assets. That afternoon, as Dominic was picking Leo up from school, his phone buzzed with a news alert. Weber Development CEO Calvin Weber faces investigation for bid irregularities. Company shares plummet. Leo noticed his father's slight smile. "Good news?" he asked. "Just business," Dominic replied. "How was the science club meeting?" "Amazing. Dr. Feldman from the university came to talk about acoustic engineering applications and structural integrity monitoring. He said my project has potential for real-world applications." Leo's enthusiasm was infectious. "That's fantastic," Dominic said sincerely. "We should celebrate. How about dinner at Giovanni's?" As they drove home, Dominic received another alert. Eleanor Preston named in Weber Development investigation. Financial ties to fraudulent bid under scrutiny. Phase 3 was proceeding exactly as planned. Eleanor's reputation, the thing she valued above all else, was beginning to crumble. By morning, her social standing would be irreparably damaged, her financial situation exposed as precarious, and her legal vulnerability evident to all. That evening, as Dominic and Leo were enjoying dinner at Giovanni's, Vanessa unexpectedly appeared at their table. She looked tired but composed. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said quietly. "Leo, I just wanted to say hello. I missed you." Leo looked to his father, who nodded slightly. "Hi, Mom," he replied cautiously. "I won't stay," Vanessa assured them. I wanted to tell you both that I'm moving to Chicago next month. A fresh start. And Leo, I'd like to keep in touch, if that's okay with you and your dad." "Chicago." Leo looked surprised. "What about your design business here?" "I'm selling it," Vanessa explained. "I need a change, professionally and personally." Dominic studied his ex-wife carefully. There was something different about her, a subdued quality that seemed genuine rather than tactical. "What about Eleanor?" he asked directly. Vanessa's expression hardened slightly. "Mother and I are taking some space from each other. The therapist calls it establishing healthy boundaries. I call it finally growing up." She turned to Leo. "I know I haven't been a mother you deserved. I don't expect forgiveness. But I am sorry, Leo. Truly sorry." Leo nodded, clearly uncertain how to respond to this unprecedented apology. "The supervised visitation is still in effect until you leave," Dominic reminded her gently, but firmly. "I know. I respect that." Vanessa glanced at her watch. "I should go. Thank you for letting me say hello." After she left, Leo looked thoughtful. "Do you think she means it? About being sorry?" Dominic considered the question carefully. "I think she's beginning to understand what she's lost. Whether that translates to genuine change, only time will tell." As they finished their meal, Dominic's phone buzzed with yet another alert. Eleanor Preston detained at airport. Passport flagged in connection with ongoing financial investigation. Eleanor had attempted to flee, just as Dominic had predicted. Now she would face the consequences of her actions, not just regarding the Weber situation, but a host of financial irregularities that Kendrick's investigation had uncovered and anonymously reported to relevant authorities. The Preston Protocol was complete. Eleanor would never again have the resources or standing to harm Leo or interfere in their lives. Vanessa, separated from her mother's toxic influence, might actually develop into a better person, perhaps even eventually a better mother. And Weber's attempt to profit from stolen information had backfired catastrophically, ensuring he would never again be a threat to Dominic's business interests. As they drove home, Leo asked unexpectedly, "Dad, does revenge make things better?" Dominic glanced at his son, surprised by the perceptive question. "That depends on what you mean by better. Sometimes protecting yourself and those you love requires ensuring that those who would harm you face consequences for their actions." "Is that what happened with Mom and Grandma Eleanor? And Mr. Walsh? They made choices that hurt you," Dominic replied carefully. "I made sure those choices had appropriate consequences." Leo nodded, processing this. "I think I understand. It's like in physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction." "Something like that," Dominic agreed, impressed as always by his son's insight. "The key is to make sure the reaction is proportional and precise." As they pulled into their driveway, Bella's excited face appeared in the window, her tail visibly wagging even from a distance. Leo smiled at the sight. "I'm glad we kept her," he said, "even if Mom only wanted her because she's normal." "Bella knows who truly cares for her," Dominic replied. "Animals are good judges of character that way." The final pieces had fallen into place. The battle was won. And while Dominic took no joy in others' suffering, he felt the deep satisfaction of having protected what mattered most to him: his son, his business, his principles. Those who had betrayed him had learned a costly lesson. Dominic Russo never forgot, and he never forgave. Chapter 9. Ashes and Steel. 6 months later, Dominic stood at the edge of the Harborview construction site, watching as the first structural beams were swung into place by massive cranes. Beside him, Leo recorded the sound of the construction with specialized microphones for a new project analyzing urban acoustic patterns. "The resonance changes as the structure takes shape," Leo explained enthusiastically. "I'm tracking how the soundscape evolves throughout the construction process." Dominic smiled at his son's passion. The past 6 months had brought remarkable changes for both of them. Leo had blossomed academically and even socially, joining a robotics club where he had made several friends who shared his intellectual interests. Without his mother's constant criticism and his grandmother's toxic influence, he had grown more confident, more willing to embrace his unique perspective rather than apologize for it. For Dominic, the professional successes had been substantial. The Harborview project had been awarded to Russo Developments, while Weber's company had imploded under the weight of the investigation, and Calvin Weber himself was facing potential charges for fraud and corporate espionage. His phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Final judgment received. Permanent custody arrangement approved as submitted. No appeals filed. The last legal thread tied off neatly. Vanessa had followed through on her plan to relocate to Chicago, maintaining limited contact with Leo through weekly video calls that had gradually become less awkward and more meaningful. She seemed genuinely committed to her therapy, occasionally sharing insights with Dominic about patterns she was recognizing in her behavior and her relationship with her mother. Speaking of Eleanor, she had faced a spectacular fall from grace. The investigation into her role in the Weberbid scandal had uncovered financial improprieties dating back years: tax evasion, misrepresentation of assets, and questionable property transfers designed to hide money from creditors. The elegant lake house had been seized, her social standing obliterated, and her legal troubles multiplied as former friends abandoned her and sometimes even contributed damaging information to authorities. She now faced multiple felony charges and had been reduced to living in a modest apartment paid for by a distant cousin who had taken pity on her. The woman who had once looked down on Dominic for being new money was now experiencing firsthand what it meant to fall from social grace with no safety net. As for Perry Walsh, his professional reputation was in tatters. The company audit had revealed his misappropriation of funds in excruciating detail, and the board had not only terminated him, but filed civil charges to recover the stolen money. His gambling debts had caught up to him, forcing him to sell his home and luxury cars. Last Dominic had heard, Perry was working as a sales representative for a small building supply company in another state, his dreams of wealth and status permanently shattered. "Dad, listen to this," Leo said, offering his headphones. Dominic put them on and heard the complex layering of construction sounds, transformed through Leo's recording equipment into something almost musical. The rhythmic pounding of pile drivers providing a steady beat beneath the metallic symphony of welding and the deep groans of moving steel. "That's incredible," Dominic said sincerely, returning the headphones. "You're capturing the voice of the building as it's born." Leo beamed at the understanding. "Exactly. Every structure has its own acoustic signature. I'm cataloging them." As they walked back to the car, Dominic reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The pain had been necessary, a fire that had burned away the rot and left behind something stronger, purer. Leo was thriving. The business was expanding. The threats had been neutralized. That evening, as they ate dinner on the patio with Bella lounging contentedly nearby, Leo suddenly asked, "Do you think people can truly change, Dad?" Dominic considered the question carefully. "I think people can evolve within the framework of who they fundamentally are. Your mother, for instance, will always be image-conscious and concerned with social standing. That's deeply ingrained in her. But she can become aware of those tendencies and choose different responses. And Grandma Eleanor? Some people are too invested in their patterns to change," Dominic replied honestly. "Your grandmother spent decades building her identity around social status and control. Losing those things hasn't made her reconsider her values. It's made her bitter about losing what she values." Leo nodded thoughtfully. "What about you? Have you changed?" The question caught Dominic by surprise. "In what way?" "Mom says you've become harder, less forgiving." Leo met his father's eyes directly. "She said you used to believe in second chances." Dominic set down his fork, giving the question the consideration it deserved. "I believe in justice, Leo, in consequences proportional to actions. Your mother betrayed our family and hurt you deeply, but she's shown genuine remorse and a desire to improve. That earns a certain level of cautious reconciliation. But not for Grandma Eleanor or Mr. Walsh. They showed no remorse, no recognition of the harm they caused," Dominic explained. "They were sorry they got caught, not sorry for what they did. That's a crucial difference." Leo absorbed this, his analytical mind visibly processing the distinction. "So forgiveness is conditional on genuine remorse and change behavior?" "In my view, yes," Dominic confirmed. "Forgiveness without those elements isn't mercy. It's enabling harmful behavior to continue." Later that night, after Leo had gone to bed, Dominic received an unexpected call from Vanessa. "I just want to check in," she said, her voice clear despite the distance. "Leo seemed a little quiet during our call yesterday. He's been asking philosophical questions about change and forgiveness, Dominic replied, processing everything that's happened. Vanessa was silent for a moment. He's always been so thoughtful. I never appreciated that enough. He's doing well, Dominic assured her. The robotics club has been good for him. Kids who share his interests, who value his intelligence rather than seeing it as something to be embarrassed about. I'm glad, Vanessa said softly. Dominic, I know I have no right to ask, but I need to know something. Was it all planned? Everything that happened to Mother, to Perry, to me, did you orchestrate all of it from the beginning? Dominic considered his response carefully. I protected my son and my business from people who were causing harm. The specific consequences they faced were largely determined by their own choices. That's not really an answer, Vanessa noted. It's the only one I'm offering, Dominic replied without rancor. How's Chicago? Vanessa accepted the change of subject. Different. Humbling. I'm starting over at an entry-level position with a design firm. My therapist says it's good for me to earn things through merit rather than connections. She sounds insightful. She is. Vanessa paused. She's helped me understand how Mother shaped me, how I learned to value appearance over substance, to see different as deficient, how I projected those values on a Leo. Understanding is the first step, Dominic acknowledged. I don't expect forgiveness, Vanessa said quietly, but I'm trying to become someone Leo won't be ashamed to have as a mother. After ending the call, Dominic walked through the silent house, checking on Leo before settling in his office. On his desk sat a framed photo taken at Leo's recent science competition. Father and son standing proudly together, Dominic's hand on Leo's shoulder, both smiling with genuine happiness. Next to it lay the final court judgment, granting permanent full custody to Dominic with structured visitation rights for Vanessa. The document represented the official end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Dominic opened his laptop, reviewing the latest projections for the Harborview project. Everything was proceeding on schedule, the company's reputation enhanced by the contrast with Weber's disgrace. Some might view his actions over the past year as ruthless, perhaps even vengeful. Dominic saw them differently, as necessary and proportional responses to threats against what mattered most to him. Vanessa had betrayed their family, but shown capacity for growth. Eleanor and Perry had shown only self-interest and malice. Their respective fates reflected those differences. He had protected his son, secured his business, ensured that those who had caused harm faced appropriate consequences. And he had done it all without compromising his principles or losing control, the calculated justice he had promised himself from the beginning. As for forgiveness, that was a bridge he hadn't yet decided whether to cross. For Leo's mother, perhaps, in time, if her evolution proved genuine. For Eleanor and Perry, there would be none. Some betrayals cut too deep, revealed character flaws too fundamental to ever merit redemption. Dominic Russo never forgot, and he only forgave when forgiveness was earned through genuine change, a standard few met once they had revealed their true selves through betrayal. The house was quiet, his son was safe, the future secure. Justice had been served, cold, precise, and complete. For Dominic, that was enough. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.